Doctor, I'm a Time Lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Kasterborous.
I hope the ears are a bit less conspicuous this time.
You might be a doctor, but I am.
I'm a doctor, but probably not the one you expect.
Absolutely fantastic.
All of time and space, everything that ever happened or ever will. Where do you want to start?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bigger on the Inside, the New Who Doctor Who Watch Along podcast.
You're very excited, Tim.
Well, I suddenly realised I was saying it a lot slower than normal. As always, I'm joined by Harry. Hi, Harry.
Hey, Tim.
First of all, apologies if my audio is slightly echoey this week. I was in the kitchen when we decided we were going to record, and I didn't move from the kitchen, so might be a little bit echoey. The oven's on in the background. We'll just see how this goes. But for the rest of the episode, when you actually get to the watch along segment, you'll be okay. You'll be back to normal. We're going to go through the news. Whoop! You excited, Harry?
Woo! Yeah, very exciting. Very exciting stuff to talk about.
So little to talk about, but so much time. Revolution it's got its official viewing figures in. It originally had its overnight viewing figures for the actual night of its broadcast, which were 4.36 million people. Hang on, what's going on here? That's EastEnders. Should we do an EastEnders podcast?
I mean, we could do, yeah.
I've never watched an episode of EastEnders. But the actual...
I've seen a couple here and there.
The viewing figures for the episode, as far as I'm aware, they were 4.69 million watched it on the night. But since then, when they've added up people who have recorded it and watched it back, and people who have caught up on iPlayer, that viewing figure for Revolution of the Daleks goes up to 6.25 million.
That's pretty. That's pretty good. That's pretty strong viewing figures.
It's not as bad. It's quite good, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know what the most viewed episode was. I think the most viewed episode was about 17 million, I think, when it was David Tennant. So, but I know like the last few seasons have really only been around 4 million. So for this big special to get, quite a big draw was quite good, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, it's good, pretty standard Doctor Who viewing figures that we're used to. I feel like I don't have any kind of numbers to compare with, but I feel like this is kind of Jodie's run is comparable to what Peter Capaldi's run was like in terms of viewing figures.
Yeah, I don't think there's much as a drop-off as some people would certainly like there to be. I wonder though if those viewing figures would have been as high if it was on Christmas Day. I feel they're high like that because New Year's Day television wasn't that remarkable this year.
I mean, none of the festive television was that remarkable, but that's, there's outside factors that have been quite impactful.
Yes. Doctor Who Revolution Daleks has an official rating of 6.25 million viewers. The final rating takes into account all those who recorded the programme and watched it within 1 week. The ratings confirmed Doctor Who was the top-rated BBC programme on New Year's Day, beating EastEnders, which had 4.63 million, and Mrs. Brown's Boys, which had 4.87. I feel like we talked about Mrs. Brown's Boys enough last week for us not to have to go into it again this week. Overall, Doctor Who was the second for the day, with Coronation Street claiming the top spot with 6.39 million, so only a little bit more than Doctor Who. Doctor Who is likely to finish the week as the 8th most watched programme, the same portion held by the New Year's 2020 programme Spyfall. So it would fall around the same place as it has done in previous years.
So between this time last year and now, Doctor Who's kind of maintained that following that it hasn't made any gains or losses.
No, it seems to have done. Yeah, it seems to be up there, which sort of makes you think. I was going to say was quite surprised considering Jack came back, but I suppose the only people who really care if Jack comes back are the fans. Bringing Jack back isn't really going to bring in random audience members, I don't feel.
I think there'll be some people, and in a way I'm surprised because I know that there were a lot of people I saw in online discourse who kind of said, or at least claimed, that they were going to stop watching after the time as children. So even if that is the case, that means then people have definitely come back because of maybe a mixture of festive Doctor Who, John Barrowman coming back, or maybe it's just that the exact same people who were watching last year are the exact same people who are watching this year. Who knows?
Yeah. The most watched program for the week ending the 3rd of January was Happy New Year Live, with 9.92 million watching London mark the start of 2021. Now, that was pretty cool. I don't know. I know this was all 2 weeks ago, but that was really cool what they did with the drones in London.
Yeah, like the kind of drones laser light show. I think it's cool. I hope that for the future they kind of continue doing a mixture of kind of technical stuff and fireworks, just because it kind of was refreshing.
They should put fireworks on drones and fly them around London. Scare the crap out of everybody.
I'm not sure that that sounds more like a Doctor Who episode, Tim.
It's
evil drones shooting fireworks around.
In other news, Christopher Eccleston's Ninth Doctor audio adventures. We've had a title, we've had cast, we've had writers, we've had episode names, and a cover reveal. I'm going to talk about the cast a little bit more with Harrison at a later date. But we're mainly going to talk about the titles and the actual cover art.
The cover which we received is just for the first story, correct? Ravagers.
Ravagers is the name of the first volume, and within the first volume.
So is this one story or a?
There is 3 individual stories. I'm not 100% sure if they will be connected.
But all 3 stories are written by Nicholas Briggs, it seems.
Yes.
Okay.
So that makes me think maybe if there's going to be 4 volumes of this, and this is only the first one we've seen, if maybe these 4
Is Nicholas
volumes...
writing all...
No, go on.
Is Nicholas Briggs writing all of them, or are other writers being brought in, or is that not something we know currently?
It's not said yet, but I imagine it's going to be different writers. I'd be quite interested, though, to see if these different these different volumes are going to take place over different time periods, or if it's just going to be one continuous, from the start, whatever the start of Ravagers is, to the very last episode of the last volume, if they're all going to take place within the same time period, or are we going to go from, the start of his era, the middle bit, maybe a little bit with Rose, because nothing like that's been announced yet.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this cover, it's quite evident that Billy Piper Rose is not going to be a part of this story, which to me must mean it kind of takes place in one of those periods, during the episode of Rose where the Ninth Doctor was off on one of his, many journeys that, what's the name of the guy who Rose went to see in that episode?
Oh, his name was Clive?
Clive, that's right.
Clive or Clive,
I'm guessing.
I can't remember.
Sorry, can we stop for a second? Sorry, my brother just came in the room.
No, it's okay. I'll edit around that. Just let me do a load of clapping so I can see it on the timeline. You ready?
Yep.
Ta-da. If we're going to talk about the cover for a second, let's try and break down what we can see. There's a lot of different time periods going on here, it seems.
There's definitely a centurion there,
a
Roman.
There's an army tank.
Are those like French Revolution era soldiers, or is that like?
I was hoping you were going to tackle that one because my history knowledge is appalling.
I'm not. Honestly, my history is very, very rusty. Some kind of civil war period.
And what seems to be Weasel, or whatever his name is, from the Portal video games. The little round ball thing with a light. Or is that...
Yeah, I mentioned that. Looks like 343 Guilty Spark there with his light. It looks uncannily similar to him.
Yeah. There is the big giant robot in the background.
Yeah, looks like something out of Real Steel, if anyone but me remembers that film.
No, I remember Real Steel. I never saw it, but I remember...
I saw it in the cinemas. It's pretty good, actually. Actually, I saw it on TV a few years ago, and it holds up a lot better than you'd expect a film about Hugh Jackman controlling a boxing robot to hold up.
One thing that's noticeable is that behind him is what seems to be the floor of the TARDIS.
Is that? I didn't realize that's what it was.
There's like the big hexagonal behind him, which is like a neck, which seems to be the floor of the TARDIS, and then there seems to be two round things around him as well.
Ah, yes, of course. And
Yeah.
obviously, we have flying out of that explosion. We have the Ninth Doctor's TARDIS. Always nice to see that TARDIS design.
Well, I was looking at it, and it looks a little different. I don't know if it looks
Do you
like the
think so?
Ninth Doctor's, but I think they've maybe got an image of maybe Matt's TARDIS and just tweaked it slightly.
No, Matt's TARDIS was definitely like bulkier than that. Do you think
Yeah.
is that bulkier than the Ninth Doctor's
Well,
TARDIS was?
the only reason I raise question is because I know how Big Finish do their artwork. So, for example, this photo that you're looking at now of Christopher Eccleston, that body and that head are taken from two different photo shoots, and the artist Tom Webster has just merged them together. So it makes me maybe think that maybe this TARDIS that we're looking at is actually two TARDISes merged into one.
Yeah. Can I ask? I don't know if this is deliberate, but do you know what the explosion might be a callback to?
Nope.
Have you never seen the original 2005 teaser 4 series 1 of Doctor Who?
Oh yeah, where he's running down a hallway and there's the explosion behind him.
Yeah, there's an explosion. The explosion, if I remember correctly, looks very similar to the one that we've got the Ninth Doctor standing in front of now. I don't know if that's deliberate or not, or maybe it's just because they wanted that, very early 2000s contrast of blue and orange. But either way, it's very cool.
I know a lot of people really wanted to have maybe the cover of this look a lot like the early days 2005 Doctor Who DVD covers.
I mean, to me, it feels like it's kind of a fusion of that era's art style and the kind of general Big Finish art style, which is very cool. I like very much kind of the aesthetic that the Big Finish covers go for.
Yeah, no, they are great. I'll read you a little bit here what I found on DoctorWhoNews.net. Cover art and the story titles for the first volume of Big Finish Doctor Who, The Ninth Doctor Adventures, starring Christopher Eccleston, are unveiled today. Due to be released in May 2021, so not long to go. Doctor Who The Ninth Doctor Adventures Ravager is a full cast audio drama box set comprising 3 fantastic stories written by Big Finish creative director Nicholas Briggs. Joining Christopher Eccleston for his best audio odyssey through time and space are Camilla Beput as Nova, a gallery chef from the Spheres of Freedom. And who else do we have? There is somebody else joining, but they seem to have...
Jane McKenna, that's
right, as Audrey. Yeah, there you go. The oldest gamer in Freedom City. The Ninth Doctor Adventures is now available to pre-order exclusively at Big Finish website. That is www.bigfinish.com for just $19.99. The story includes the first volumes. The story included in this first volume are the following. So you're ready for the titles? They are Sphere of Freedom. Here we go. There's a big word. Cataclysm? How would you pronounce that? Can you see the word? Do you know what I'm on about here?
Have you got it up on your screen?
Let me pronounce it. Cataclysm, apologies. And Food Fight. So you're gonna get 3 stories across the 4 different volumes, it seems. Yeah, it's interesting. The titles give so little away.
Yeah, those are very, very vague. There's no kind of, invasion of the Cybermen or something like that that quite clearly gives away what might be happening. I mean, obviously, judging from this cover, we aren't going to be seeing any classic Who monsters unless one of the 2 robots are, in fact, classic Who monsters I don't recognize. But nothing super iconic in this first installment.
Do you think there's a possibility we could get something with the Master and the Ninth Doctor?
Which Master? That's the question. Because the thing is...
Well, it wouldn't be Derek Jacobi because he doesn't recognize him. So you would have to go before Derek Jacobi. This is where it gets slightly confusing with Doctor Who because Big Finish have their own collection of Masters. We may as well go straight into it because it is 50 years 30 years of the Master, or is it 50 years of the Master?
I think
30, it's 30.
30 years.
Yeah. 30 years of the Master. So Big Finish released Masterful, which I haven't listened to. Have you listened to it, Harry?
No.
Nope. And it includes almost every single master. It literally includes every master that there's ever been, plus some ones that have been designed only for Big Finish. So there's a possibility that maybe they could just put one of their own masters in there.
The thing with that is, my understanding is that when the 10th Doctor discovers the Master, he's surprised that the Master is alive at all, because he was presumed that every Time Lord, including the Master, was killed at the end of the Time War. So if they wanted a 9th Doctor to meet either the Master or River Song, they'd then have to do it that their mind by the end of that story was wiped for kind of continuity in the show to be maintained.
No, you're all right. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Do you have a favorite Master story?
I've only watched New Who, so it's hard to say for me. Perhaps I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Because it's hard for me to separate my favorite Master stories from my favorite Master depictions.
Okay, so what's your favorite Master depiction?
In New Who, there's John Sims' final appearance as a Master in Series 10. And then my favorite New Who Master is Sacha Dhawan. I think that he is just excellent, pitch perfect.
Yeah, well, mine is
Master. So maybe Spyfall, just because of how much I enjoy watching Sacha Dhawan.
Yeah, Sacha Dhawan's great. I haven't seen enough of him yet to fully form a proper opinion. But for me, it is John Sim. I think he's amazing. And also the fact that he's in Life on Mars also swings that a lot for me.
Do you have a preference between Tennant era John Sim and Capaldi era Tom Sim? Because they're quite different.
Yeah.
Even the two Tennant stories John Sim appears in, every time he appears as the Master in the show, he's quite radically different.
Yeah, I suppose it's hard to not let... I suppose the Capaldi era Master is my favorite, but I don't necessarily think that's the best story that Master was in.
Okay.
Yeah,
I kind of agree with that, yeah.
While we're talking about Big Finish, we've got some news on the new Out of Time. We spoke about it last week when we spoke about all the things David Tennant's going to be returning for. Out of Time 2, The Gates of Hell, with David Tennant and Peter Davison, will feature the Cybermen. How do you feel about that, Harry?
That should be fun. One question I wonder is, are they going to acknowledge the events of Time Crash in that?
I feel
are they going to canonize that Children in Need special? You think they will?
I think it already is canon, I think. So maybe just have a little throwaway line where it's, oh, it's you again, or something like that. Because this will be the only time... this will be the second time that they've met. So it's, and it's the only time the 10th Doctor can remember meeting another incarnation of himself.
Yeah, maybe some joke about the 5th Doctor looking younger than he was before.
No, I hope they don't. I hope they keep age him up again, even for audio. Just to
Have we seen the cover yet? Have you seen the cover?
No, we haven't seen the cover yet. No.
It would be quite fun if they just said, "Screw it, let's have an older Pete Davison."
Again, every time.
I was about to say then they could have had the 10th Doctor, Tennant and Davison do a fun photo shoot together, but I realised that Tennant looks older than he did when he was the 10th Doctor, so never mind.
That's it for news, really. I don't have anything else to talk about. Do you, Harry?
Well, obviously you and Harrison have already spoken about the 14th Doctor rumours, and I would not mind, throwing my own 1-2 in the ring.
No, that's okay.
That's not a saying. That's not a saying. Throwing my own 1-2. What is it? Throwing my own hat in the ring? Is that
possibly? Yeah.
I feel like I just make up sayings or throw them together. I shouldn't speak. Why am I on a podcast?
No, of course, we were going to talk about this anyway. I've still got loads of suggestions I haven't got through yet. And then me and Harrison went through some, and I just want to go and listen to that. Do you want to go first with some of your suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, most of mine are kind of based off rumours, what bookies have started saying. I'd like to first of all kind of return to one of the ones which you and Harrison brought up and were enthusiastic about, and what I believe has been voted by fans to be kind of the most wanted Doctor, which is Richard Ayoade.
He's literally on telly now. He's on the TV here.
What's he doing? Is it Travel Man?
It is Travel Man.
I think my dad's watching it. But
so, can you guess who he's traveling with?
No, I couldn't.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Leave your comments and suggest who you think he could be traveling with. Sorry, Harry, carry on.
But no, yeah, I kind of am pretty much in the same camp as most Doctor Who fans, in which I've said for a couple of years now, at least, that Richard Ayoade would be absolutely brilliant as the Doctor. He's great. I think he kind of has everything you could want from an actor playing Doctor. I think possibly my only reservation is that kind of nowadays with stuff such as Travel Man, Crystal Maze, he does much more presenting work. I mean, unless acting work. That didn't stop Bradley Walsh, of course. But there is the possibility that in the public eye, Richard Ayoade is seen too much as Richard Ayoade rather than as an actor. And that if you were to play the role, we wouldn't be able to think of him as the 14th Doctor and just think of him as Richard Ayoade as the Doctor.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You'd be watching it and you wouldn't see the Doctor, you would see Richard Ayoade.
I mean, I think that's a very small point against him. If he was revealed, I would be, elated. Because I think he's kind of got everything you could want from a Doctor.
Yeah. Well, I've got two suggestions here. And the reason I'm going to bring them up first is because I'm not 100% sure about them. I'm not sure if... I think they should have played the Doctor at some point, but not now. I feel like maybe the moment has passed for them to play the Doctor, but at some point, maybe in the last 10, 20 years, they would have been perfect. And the two people I've got are Robert Carlyle and Nicholas Lyndhurst.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So Robert
I've
Carlyle,
heard those names being thrown around.
Robert Carlyle, a lot of people might know better on Train Spotting, but I'm talking about when he was doing stuff like the Full Monty, that sort of era. Robert Carlyle would have been great. Maybe now. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it now.
Was Doctor Who on TV when that came out, though?
I don't think it was. No, that's the only problem.
Yeah.
And Nicholas Lyndhurst, who now I do feel is maybe too old to do it. He does. I know, like Capaldi looks old, but not to throw shade on Capaldi, but he still looks like the Doctor. Whereas I love Nicholas Lyndhurst. I cannot talk about how much I adore Only Fools and Horses and how much I adore Rodney. But when I see Nicholas Lyndhurst now, I'm like, oh man, you look old.
I think there's also the fact that when you've already played a really iconic character such as Rodney in Only Fools and Horses, can you then also play another iconic character such as the Doctor? Or would you just see, Rodney from Only Fools as the Doctor?
Well, it's not going to stop Chris Marshall.
Chris Marshall. Have you already discussed Chris Marshall?
We haven't. I would like to say, I think Chris Marshall would be a great Doctor, and I think he would be just fine. But what I don't like is the fact that every news outlet goes, yeah, it's going to be Chris Marshall, with no evidence.
I feel like, I don't know. I've not watched Death in Paradise. I'm sure he's a great actor. And from what you've told me, there's a lot in his performance in Death in Paradise that kind of suggests he would be able to play the Doctor very well. Though part of me kind of feels like a lot of the reason why people have kind of rallied behind him is because he's ginger, and the whole, lingering thing of the Doctor always saying they want to be ginger.
Well, I know last time the rumours went around, it was because he left Death in Paradise like the same month it was announced that Capaldi was leaving Doctor Who, so people quickly weighed it up and went, okay. So who do you have? Who's on your list?
I really only have another two key ones I want to talk about. One of them I saw at some point from one article, it might have been Metro, slated her as the bookie's favourite, which is Michaela Cole.
The one you sent
me? Yeah, she's the star of and creator of both Chewing Gum and I May Destroy You. I've not watched I May Destroy You, but I've heard very, very good things about it. I have seen some bits of Chewing Gum, and she's very good in that. From everything I've seen, I think she would do an excellent job. I mean, I feel like every actor we bring up would be able to bring something to the role of the Doctor and do an excellent job.
100%.
My one question is, would someone like Michaela Cole, who's obviously such a creatively involved person in a lot of her projects, would she choose to do something like Doctor Who, where she would have less creative control over, another thing which she could write and direct and produce?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, from what I've heard from Moffat and Russell is that writing Doctor Who is just the biggest ball ache. And they seem to really enjoy it, but it just constantly stresses them out. So the fact that you would then have to write it, produce it, direct it, and star in it.
I'm not saying that she personally would. I mean, that's something that's never been done. We've never had a Doctor also be a writer and producer for a show. How would you feel if that happened?
I think it would be okay.
Say
the only other example I can think of is Ricky Gervais. Not to play the Doctor, but in that same field of writing and directing and starring in his own stuff. And for that, it works. For 6 episodes of a sitcom or a comedy, I feel it works. For a sci-fi show with such a big legacy, where I imagine planning it takes, because you know that when they're filming series 5, they're planning series 6. So I don't necessarily know if you could do that and also give a 100% committed performance to the role as well.
I mean, that being said, I say that, but if Michaela did come on, obviously, kind of the rumors about Jodie leaving specified that Chibnall would stay on, and I imagine that would be the case. Yeah. And actors like, we bring up Richard Ayoade, he's written, produced, and directed and kind of starred and stuff himself. Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is a key example. So it's by no means something, and it's not like Michaela Cole doesn't just do stuff that she creates. So I still think it's within the realms of possibility. It's just a question of whether she'd prioritize doing something like Doctor Who, which is quite a big commitment, over maybe pursuing something more personally.
Yeah. If Chibnall, it does seem, will be staying on if it is meant to be true, which threw me back into Broadchurch, and I started digging around in Broadchurch to see who had been on Broadchurch that could be of interest. And one of these I know you'll definitely want to talk about is, so the first one is Simone Ackley. She's a really brilliant female actress. She was in, did you see Broadchurch?
I saw the first 2 series. I didn't see series 3.
Okay, so you'll probably remember that the father, Mark Latimer, has an affair.
Yes.
And Simone Ackley plays the character who he has an affair with.
I remember, yeah. Jodie had a great scene where she confronted her in it.
She does, yes, that's true. So that'd be great. And Jonathan Bailey, who is a younger actor, he played the budding reporter in that,
yes,
that
I
series.
remember.
Yeah, and I think if I retweeted that on our Twitter account of these two numbnuts being asked what they thought. Did you see it? What they thought of Jodie Whittaker leaving Doctor Who on BBC News? And they asked this guy, they said, "Do you watch Doctor Who?" He went, "No, I do not watch Doctor Who because this is a children's program." And then they asked the other woman, and they said, "What do you think?" And she went, "Well, I think the BBC has clearly shown it's trying to appeal to a younger demographic. So I think they should possibly cast a YouTuber."
Wait, who are these 2 people? Are these the actors from Broadchurch?
No, these are just 2 people who just happened to be on BBC Breakfast at this time when they were doing like the news, when they were going over.
Okay, so they weren't like television correspondents, actors, right? They had no.
They were just 2 random people. It was the most bizarre thing.
Okay, because is this like the thing where on BBC News they bring in like people to talk about the headlines?
Yes.
So it's like those, like the headlines people.
Yeah.
God, now I'm thinking about like if they brought in like Joe Sugg to be the Doctor.
I could see it. I can see it.
I feel like he's a bit young right now, but
someone who was in Broadchurch, I know you want to talk about, is Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Yes, I did I was snooping around for Broadchurch cast list as well, and I did see Phoebe Waller-Bridge, which I could not help but notice because she, of course, is another one which a lot of the rumours and the bookies are talking about. I remember she was discussed when it came to who could be the 13th Doctor, and of course she's being discussed again now. I feel like when it came to the 13th Doctor, she very much could have been a viable pick. Now, I think she's far too big of a name.
Yeah.
Obviously, Fleabag has been like, a huge success, not just here, but internationally it's been acclaimed. I don't know how much she's kind of broken the West. The West definitely know who she is.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I know she was in So Star Wars Stories, a droid. The main reason I say I know that the West know who she is because Jimmy Fallon did a section on his show where he did a sketch where he was Harry Styles making the new music video, and there were bits where he was FaceTiming someone pretending to be Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and they were making jokes that were quite explicitly references to Fleabag.
Oh, so really? Okay.
So there is an awareness of who both Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Fleabag is in the West. Not the West. I say the West. We're in the West. The UK is the West.
You mean America?
I mean, in America.
Yeah.
In the States. The States is the word I was looking for.
Somebody else who I've got.
But yeah.
The rest of the people on my list are all female, so we'll try and rattle through these. From Killing Eve, I've got Jodie Comer and Sandra Oh.
I feel like is Killing Eve not still going on?
I feel like it's finished. I think it's finished.
I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like that show is like massive. Like Killing Eve right now is bigger than modern Doctor Who is. So I feel like to go from Killing Eve to Doctor Who would almost be a step down career-wise. Imagine like those actresses now will be kind of eyeing up Hollywood,
Yeah. Well, okay, so what about Vicky McClure from Line of Duty?
I'd be for that.
Yeah.
Line of Duty is great. Yeah.
Who else do we have? Tamsin Gregg from Friday Night Dinner and Episodes.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I've not considered Tamsin Gregg.
Because she does
my ears up.
For those who don't know, in the UK we have a long-running radio program called The Archers, which is basically like a soap opera on the radio, and she's involved in that. She also recently did a drama on ITV that didn't do too well, but I understand that she was very good as a dramatic actress in that. And also we know she can do comedic roles. So I think Tamsin Gregg would be a really good shout at Doctor Who.
I'm thinking about it right now. Have you seen, I think I actually saw a meme which lined up the cast of Friday Night Dinner and ranking them from likely to least likely to be the next Doctor. And they did put Tamsin Gregg as the number one.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the main thing I know her from is the National Theatre production of Twelfth Night, where she was playing Malvolio, who's normally a male character, but it's kind of one of the most significant roles in the piece.
Yeah.
And she was in it, and she was very funny. She had a real intensity to it. I could see her really working.
Yeah. Okay, so another one I've got here. Go on.
Sorry, no, that actually has got me one of the first names that has got me really excited. Tamsin Gregg sounds like of all the names we've discussed, that's one of the ones which to me is one of the most viable.
Yeah,
that'd be really good.
Someone I've got who was in Doctor Who and I think could be quite interesting. Sophia Miles from Girl in the Fireplace.
Did she play Madame Pompadour?
She did play Madame de Pompadour.
Oh, du Pompadour.
I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
See, I just think if Capaldi could do it, and Capaldi was in such a monumental episode and such an important role in that episode, then why not just do the same with Sophia Miles if they were to bring her back? Why has she picked this face and such or just never address it?
Maybe, yeah. I'm trying to think now.
She used to date David Tennant
characters
as well,
who've been in
connection.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now of kind of actors who've been in New Who stories who could potentially
David
come
Mitchell.
back as a Doctor. David Mitchell. That'd be a laugh, yeah.
Okay, well, what about Robert Webb?
Robert Webb. That'd be a laugh, yeah. I mean, I don't think either of them would. But sure, why not?
What about David Walliams?
Oh, I can't see that. I can't see David Walliams as a Doctor.
No, me neither. I knew you wouldn't like that.
We're just going to reel off just kind of the most...
Okay, the last one I got on my list, which when I sent to you, you said you were going to talk to me about it on here, is Felicity Jones.
Yes, you mentioned Felicity Jones, which I found interesting. Why do you think Felicity Jones?
Well, I think she's a good actress. She could, like everybody we've mentioned on here, she could do this. She would be just as good as anybody else we've mentioned. possibly too big of a star to do it with being in
That's
a Star
my
Wars.
reservation.
But then maybe Doctor Who needs a big star to front it, even if it's just for 3 seasons.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to get to that point in a second. First of all, I want to say, based on what we've talked about so far, I don't think it's likely. I was already saying Phoebe Waller-Bridge might be too big.
Yeah.
And Felicity Jones was in the same Star Wars movie Phoebe was in, and she was playing an even more significant role than Phoebe was. So, by that kind of deduction, I feel like Phoebe's too big. No, Felicity's too big. But I did think about that, what you just said, of what if, for even a brief stint, they brought in like a big A-list actor to play the Doctor, because that's not been done before. That's never been done before. It's almost kind of tradition at this point to pick kind of an up-and-comer to play the Doctor. But what if they went the other way? And that is interesting. That's interesting, because then suddenly names which you would very quickly dismiss, like Eddie Redmayne or Benedict Cumberbatch, suddenly those become viable if you thought, what if they were to do that?
I don't think Cumberbatch would do it. I think he's even said he wouldn't do it. I think when Tennant left and Moffat was taken over, I think they had a discussion about it. But Cumberbatch basically said he just doesn't want his fate, which is what I'm about to say now contradicts everything to do with the MCU. But Cumberbatch said he just didn't like the idea of having his face on lunchboxes and stuff like that.
Mm.
But yeah, there's some good choices in there. I generally do think that it should be. My instinct is to go for an unknown, but then after what we've just said, I really would like maybe just see just a random really big name actor do it for 2 years.
I mean, yeah, if some kind of leak came out where it said like an A-list or Hollywood star was who the BBC were in negotiations with.
Yeah.
I mean, it would definitely do the ratings favors, wouldn't it? Without a doubt.
It would.
I'm trying to think, like the biggest possible name now, like
Steve Coogan.
Or if it was like Steve Coogan's the biggest name you can think of.
It is. It's got many.
I was about to say something like Dame Judi Dench as the Doctor. I was going to go that insane.
I generally can't think of anybody because in my mind it still has to be a British actor in my mind.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I want to establish that. I mean, I feel like the Doctor at this point it's been established quite clearly that they can be any race, any gender, anything. But I feel like you kind of have to draw the line at British.
Yeah, they can be Scottish, they can be English, they can be Irish. They have to be British.
Have we been Welsh? We've not had a Welsh Doctor?
Michael Sheen, there you go. It's going to be Michael Sheen.
I have heard Michael Sheen being thrown around.
Yeah.
I mean, he could certainly do it.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if he would.
I don't think he would. Before we go into Tooth and Claw, anything you want to say, Harry? Anything else?
I feel like we've covered all bases quite comprehensively.
What's going to be your fun segue? We've only got 2 minutes left because I have some on telly I want to watch at 8 o'clock. What's your cool segue into Tooth and Claw from talking about who the next Doctor is going to be?
Wait, Tim, ask me how I'm feeling health-wise.
Yeah, how are you feeling health-wise, Harry, in this strange time?
Oh, I'm not doing so well. I think I've got an ingrown nail. Like my nails, I really need to cut right now. They're like claws, and I actually think I have an ache in one of my teeth. I've got a real kind of tooth and claw situation going on here. Oh, speaking of tooth and claw,
thank you very much for listening this far, everybody. Do stick along for the watch long; it's always good fun. It was filmed a fair while ago, so there might be some obscure references to Little Mix breaking up, if that was in that episode. If not, there's a teaser for some future episodes. Thank you very much for listening so far, and enjoy the rest of the show. How do I stop?
Once again, I'm right, and on the rare occasion when I'm wrong, we usually find out that that bit was a lie, and that I was right in the first place.
This is a command from the Daleks. All listeners are demanded to subscribe to our Patreon. Subscribe or you will be exterminated. Seek, locate, subscribe.
What's the point
point in having you all.
Great news there, Harry. Great news.
That was a great transition I did, wasn't it?
It was amazing. Well done.
I was very proud of it.
Tooth and Claw. Doctor Who Series 2, Episode 2. It's called what, Harry?
Tooth and Claw, like you just said.
Who's it by?
I'm going to have to Google that.
Oh, you always go Tooth and Claw by...
I'm getting up now. We can edit around this unless Tim doesn't want to.
I don't edit any of these podcasts.
Oh, it's by Russell.
Yeah. Do you want to do that again?
Yes.
We're doing Doctor Who Series 2, Episode 2, which is called what, Harry?
Tooth and Claw by Russell T. Davis.
Well done. It's got a weird opening this episode with that kung fu. I like it, but I feel it's maybe slightly dated in the way it's filmed.
It's a strange opening because it's kind of this very kind of action-packed precedent for the whole story. And you have like these monks and like there's that one like slow-mo shot which is really cool. And then like I know what you mean there about the camera work because the rest of it is quite kind of like shaky, unfocused, but I guess that was kind of like the era. That's how TV action was shot during the time.
I suppose as well, if you've got quite a small budget, you want to just try and use every trick in the book.
Do you think all the budget went to that one slow-mo flipping shot?
I think so. I think it took them about a day to film on The Confidential. They were talking about it, and there's huge cranes and wires, and it took them ages to find the right place to film it. And I think they had to like resurface the area where they were filming because they couldn't like flip. I don't know, but it took them a lot longer than I think they were willing for it to take.
So we're going to use that footage.
Yeah, the scene where they are you don't see the guy in the box. It's the cold open, and they take off the cloak of the box, and then it just cuts to loads of people chained up screaming. What are they screaming at? Because that's not a wolf that they're screaming at. It's just a guy in a box.
Yeah, but it's a creepy guy in a box, Tim.
An emo in a box. He might start playing.
Are you telling me that if it was Victorian era Scotland, they didn't know what emos were?
Just oh no, what's going on? That's a horrible Scottish accent. Hang on. Okay.
That's worse than Billy Piper's Scottish.
What's going on in that wee box? When I was
crawling in my skin.
Just after the cold open, we then cut to the Doctor and Rose flying the TARDIS. That's a really cool scene, especially with the music in the background. I wish Doctor Who would do more stuff with noticeable soundtracks to accompany action sequences.
Because that's the thing, like the Doctor has lived throughout all of space and time.
Yeah.
Surely he's got a good vinyl collection by now, you know?
Yeah, because the Rose describes him as being punk, which I think is, the fourth Doctor was Bohemian. This one is punk.
And the 12th Doctor is rock and roll.
The 12th Doctor is Bowie. That's all he is.
It's interesting, isn't it? Do you think that every time the Doctor regenerates, they throw out their whole music collection and like start again?
Possibly. I don't know. Maybe. But then not everybody has different tastes in music. A lot of people have similar tastes in music, so maybe not the whole thing.
Okay, well, maybe they'll keep like, Best of Queen. I bet they'll all keep Best of Queen, but...
Best of Queen, and that's what I call music for dads.
Then Jodie swapped it out with music for mums.
That's true. Do you have a phone ringing? Do you need to go pick that up?
It's not my phone.
Okay.
It's a house phone.
We won't worry about it. You mentioned it there. Rose's Scottish accent is dreadful, but is David Tennant doing his normal Scottish accent, or is he putting on a Scottish accent? What's he doing there?
Right. To me, it sounds like it's a slightly exaggerated version of his usual Scottish accent.
Yeah, like when you do an exaggerated Northern accent for Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah, like when I like just really let myself go lazy and exaggerate my whole isms.
What would Christopher Eccleston do in a Scottish accent sound like, Harry?
Okay, this is a big ask for me. Okay, First of all, I have to go in to meet Christopher Eccleston. And, ooh, I'm a Scottish Christopher Eccleston. I'm from the island of Balamory.
That's a weird reference as well for the Doctor to put in here, Balamory. Is he watching Balamory?
I don't know. The thing is, that's not the thing, because Balamory, there is, the island it's based off, is a real island with that town, but it's not called Balamory in real life. So I don't get why they didn't just call the CBeebies show Balamory, name it after the actual island town.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Maybe it's not a family-friendly town name, but
it's called Tobermory.
Is that what it's actually called?
Yeah.
Tobermory's just as good. You can even do the same theme song.
I don't know if people... Oh, are you talking about for the actual show? The actual show Balamory?
Yeah, the actual show Balamory. What's the name of the town they film?
Tobermory.
Why did they change it?
We've spoken about Balamory for too long, Harry.
The thing is, do we have any American listeners? Because they won't have a clue what we're on about.
No.
They won't know what Balamory is.
Well, they'll have to stick around for our Balamory watch-along podcast.
Tim, that's meant to be a secret.
No, I'm not telling anybody. Don't worry. It's only me and you here.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're just talking to a void.
What would we call it? What would we call a Balamory podcast?
Obviously, we'd call it Wouldn't You Like to Know?
That's a good idea. I like that. Moving on from Balamory, the Doctor and Rose's reaction to meeting the Queen is great.
Yeah, I love I know it's a little bit silly, but I love the way that Rose is just trying throughout to very obviously get her to say that she's not amused.
Yes. Where does that come from?
The phrase "we are not," I don't know. I mean, I can only assume maybe it was something which, shortly after Victoria's death, maybe newspaper comics or something depicted the Queen like that, because it's definitely not something she said. Although apparently once in a letter or a diary entry, she wrote, "We were very much amused." I don't know where the "we are not amused" thing comes from at all.
I'm just having a quick look here through the Radio Times.
Maybe there was a popular depiction of her in a play or a telly program or an old timey-wimey film.
Maybe. I'm not too sure. I'm not going to read this full radio article because it's actually about the TV series Victoria. Not actually about
the Jenna Coleman one.
Yeah,
it's Doctor Who. He's got Jenna Coleman.
I'm not reading this whole thing. If anyone wants to go and read Hugh Fullerton's article, you can do that. Just Google, did Queen Victoria really say "we are not amused"? You'll find it. It's there. I also like their reaction afterwards, which is when they're walking on their own and the Doctor's like, "We just met Queen Victoria."
Yeah, it's a similar thing to, how Eccleston's Doctor, the Ninth Doctor, would still get excited over meeting someone like Charles Dickens. Yeah. It's cool to see that carry over, because I feel like that's a very appealing aspect of the Doctor, that no matter where they've been and who they've met, meeting new people in new places still excites them. And that's why they travel. They just love experiencing all space and time.
Yeah, which is quite strange because when Rose does meet Charles Dickens, she doesn't care. She's like,
well, she's had a bit of a long day. She's been knocked out, hasn't she, and kidnapped and all that.
That's true. But when she meets Queen Victoria, she's loving it, which I thought would have been the other way around for someone of me and as someone who is maybe now older than Billie Piper was meant to be playing when she was in Doctor Who. How old
Rose is meant to be 19, isn't she?
Okay, so we are.
Maybe she's 20 in Series 2.
So. But at the age of 20, I still would have been more excited to meet Charles Dickens and Queen Victoria.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like they'd both be very interesting people to meet. I mean, it's kind of one of those questions of you're that dream dinner party, who you would invite. I'd very happily have either of them at my dinner table.
I'd have Toby Jones.
Toby
Bald-
Jones is brilliant. I love Toby
the
Jones.
character of Baldrick from Blackadder,
Okay.
Wallace, Morph,
As in of
and Charles Dickens.
Morph.
Hmm.
Can Morph eat?
I don't know. That's why I'd have him there.
Just to see if he eats.
Yeah.
Also, would Morph be like human-sized, or would he be morph-sized?
I feel he should be human-sized just to freak everyone out.
But then, like, what?
Wallace is plasticine size.
Wallace can't be. Wallace has to be human-sized. You can't have a human-sized Morph and a plasticine-sized Wallace.
You can watch me. That's. There's a scene I really
don't like that too.
There's a scene, something I do like is a scene in this episode where they arrive at the castle and is it Sir Edward? Oh, Sir Robert is trying to persuade the Queen to go elsewhere, and everybody's just kind of oblivious to it, apart from the Doctor. There's a look on his face, and I really like the fact that he knows before anybody else in that situation that something isn't quite right.
Yeah, I mean, that's naturally Doctor. Does Rose pick up on it or not? Or is she just kind of enjoying herself?
I don't think so. I don't really think, because even when she goes off to get changed and she gets kidnapped, that seems to be her first inkling that something is wrong.
Yeah.
But then again, she's quite taken back by the fact that there's been assassination attempts on the Queen. So I don't know, maybe she's, maybe she's thinking something could go wrong, but maybe not to the extent of which it does.
Maybe she didn't study the Victorian era too hard in school, and so all this is a bit new to her.
Does every school do that? We did that at school in year 5.
Yeah, but like year 5, that's so long ago. Like, what do you remember?
Do about chimney sweeps and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we learn about chimney sweeps. Of all the things to learn about in Victorian era, why do we learn about chimney sweeps? Just because that's the thing we don't have now?
We learned about chimney sweeps, and I remember watching Oliver Twist.
Yeah. I mean, that is it, isn't it? Like, we have to teach them about the Victorian era. Let's stick Oliver on.
Did you pick up on the Torchwood reference?
Yes, isn't the manor called Torchwood?
It is called Torchwood, and something else gets mentioned at the start when they arrive at the castle. I can't remember what it is, but the Queen Victoria does mention Torchwood. It's in the same scene where the Doctor mentions that he could have bought Rose Tyler or the Elephant Man. When I picked this wee lassie up for a sixpence, it was either her or the Elephant Man, is what I think he says. I'd love to see the Doctor meet the Elephant Man.
That'd be, I mean, he's already met John Hurt in Day of the Doctor.
Well, this is what I was going to say. If he meets the Elephant Man, therefore he exists in a world where there is therefore films of the Elephant Man, and John Hurt played the Elephant Man, who then played the War Doctor. So how does that work?
Unless the Doctor Who universe does not have a film of the Elephant Man.
Very much a coincidence. What a coincidence. But it does have films of... What's the Peter Cushing thing in Day of the Doctor?
Oh, that's the Stephen Moffat's novelization of it. Stated something along the lines of that the Doctor and Peter Cushing are friends. The Doctor gave Peter Cushing permission to do those Doctor Who Dalek films.
Okay. What, with Bernard Cribbins? How does that work then?
Was Bernard Cribbins in those films as well?
He was in both of them, yeah.
There's 2 people in the Doctor Who universe who look like Bernard Cribbins. One of them is an actor who voices the Wombles, and one of them is Wilf.
Oh, so they're both actors, but they both have just done...
Wilf. No, Wilf is just Wilf, and then Bernard Cribbins is the actor who's done like Jack and Ori and stuff.
Old Jack's Boat.
Old Jack's Boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're thinking a lot of CBeebies references this week.
The scene where they're looking at the telescope and the guy who is a monk who I don't think his name gets mentioned, but he looks like Richard O'Brien, who used to present the Crystal Maze. He says he stops Sir Robert talking about the story of the wolf because he says it's almost dark, but you can see outside that it's pretty much light. It's like the middle of the day.
Maybe it's winter where like the dark creeps up on you.
But then they're even when the start episode where the Doctor meets Queen Victoria, they say, "Oh, we've got to keep going. It's almost sunset or sundown, or it's going to get dark soon." But then it's like super bright.
I don't know, Tim. Take it up with continuity. When you're showrunner, you'll make sure stuff like this doesn't happen. When they say it's almost dark, you'll make sure it's dark in the next scene, won't you, Tim?
I will do. I'm not an idiot like Russell T Davies. I like the Doctor's reaction to when Rose fails for the second time to get Queen Victoria to say we are not amused. And the Doctor and Rose's reaction, which is just a sort of like, they are, especially, I think this episode does a really good job at depicting them as just really good friends.
Yeah.
And you definitely get to see them as just great mates, just messing around.
Yeah, I really love it. It's very contagious just to see how much fun Billy and David have. Like, I like lots of things about lots of different companion Doctor team-ups, but it's hard to think of a pair that seem to just be having such pure joy in the way that Ten and Rose do.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. That said, they do get separated again. They got separated last week in New Earth, and they got separated before that in the Christmas Invasion, and they're getting separated this week in Tooth and Claw. Do they get separated next week? What's next week's episode?
Next week, it's not School Reunion yet, is it?
I think it is actually, yeah.
I mean, that episode, like, they talk about the fact that the Doctor leaves you eventually.
But he doesn't leave Rose. He's never going to leave Rose. It's the Doctor and Rose forever.
Yeah, that's right. The last 11 series of Doctor Who have all been David Tennant and Billy Piper.
That's why they've been so busy.
Yeah, that's why we can't get them on the podcast.
One day. There's a reference in this to the Bad Wolf. Did you pick up on that?
Yes, I did. And it was the werewolf who brought it up, didn't he?
Yeah, he says, "I could see it in you, the wolf," or something like that, which obviously a reference to the last series with the bad wolf that Rose becomes. But I sort of wondered, that's sort of a really obscure thing to bring up and then just leave.
Yeah, and I feel like there was something about him saying that you can sense kind of the light and the dark or something. Was that right?
Yeah.
So that actually makes sense in terms of like the show's internal logic, because obviously Rose took in kind of the light from the heart of the TARDIS. So it would make sense that this guy would be able to sense kind of the bad wolf in her, because that was what made her bad wolf.
Talking of bad wolves, what did you think to the CGI of the werewolf? Or the werewolf?
I mean, obviously for 2021 standards, it doesn't quite hold up. However, if you compare it to the CGI of, say, Savine or the, I can't remember what the monsters were called in Father's Day in Series 1, but it's a huge step up if you compare the 2005 CGI monsters to this 2006 CGI monster.
I think it's hidden quite a lot, this werewolf. It's a lot of it's either quite far away at the end of hallways or is in darkness.
That's true as well. That's very true. Like, if you think back to like World War III, the Savine when they burst through a door, it's kind of a static medium shot where you can kind of quite tell it's CGI. Whereas here, it's masked quite well. I mean, I even say like, while kind of some shots don't hold up, there are some which are still, quite effective. And when you're kind of caught up in the action, it serves its purpose well without being distracting.
We've talked about the werewolf. We've talked a lot about the opening. The rest of the episode's okay, I feel. But it is just a lot of running around a big house.
It's, it's what you expect from Doctor Who. It keeps you invested. It doesn't break any huge boundaries, but it doesn't really need to at the same time.
No, you're right. Anything else you want to say about this episode? I'm kind of all out of notes.
No, it's a pretty strong, fun episode. It's a good time. It's funny, it's fun, a little bit scary. You know, it's what we want from Doctor Who.
That's true. Okay, so it's time for the quiz.
You, not me. I hate being patient. Patience is for wimps.
Oh my god! Oh, my voice. No, something happened there.
I've got no questions this week. I forgot to do them.
Really? I mean, I feel I can guess what one of the questions is. I can remember.
Okay, let's let the audience into this. Well, this is the second time we're having to record this episode. I accidentally overwrote the file when we originally recorded this in 2020, so we've kind of just been winging this. We do apologise. Why don't you ask me the question for a change?
Okay. Because I remember at least two of them. I can't remember the answer to one of them. I can never remember the answer to the first one, which is...
Is it the Muppet movie?
It was the Muppet movie. I was going to like, what movie does the 10th Doctor mention at the start? And it's the Muppet movie.
Muppet movie, yeah.
And I remember remembering it because I was like, oh, Tim will like that reference. Because Tim likes the Muppets.
I do like the Muppets.
You saw it in the O2, didn't you?
I did see them in the O2. And look who's here, everybody. It's Kermit the Frog. Do you want to... I'm just going to have to leave for a second if you want to talk to Kermit the Frog, Harry.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Kermit. How are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you.
Oh, you're doing the Kermit.
What do you mean I'm doing Kermit?
Oh, no,
Kermit
it's both... It's both Matt Vogel and Steve Whitmere.
Hey, ho.
Oh, hey, everybody. Hey, Kermit the Frog here.
Who's who?
I'm Steve.
Oh, I want to be...
No, you can be... Okay, fine, I'll be Matt. Matt. I like
gone
Matt
now.
anyway.
He's left.
Both Kermits.
What's the second question? What else do you have?
How many assassination attempts were made on Queen Victoria?
6 or 8, I think. I can't remember. Can you?
No.
Well, if you do remember, leave it in the comments, because...
And the third question was probably a reference to something someone said. But I can't remember.
Let me think of something someone said. Okay, who in the episode Queen Victoria carries around a diamond? Who did that diamond originally belong to?
Did it belong to Albert?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, well done.
Did I win?
You're a certified Doctor Who fan. Means you'll be single and alone forever. Like all of us Whovians are destined for.
I was adored once.
Yeah, so was I once, and then I did a podcast called Big on the Inside, and everyone lost all their respect for me. Do you have anything you'd like to recommend this week, Harry? Anything you want to recommend?
What would I have recommended this time, like a few months ago? I'd have recommended going outside when we were allowed to.
We were allowed that then, but we didn't. We stayed inside and did a podcast. What a waste of time!
And that's the thing, yeah. I had. I mean, I can't remember exactly the dates, but I remember like people at the going to the pub after like a session in uni. I was like, nah, I gotta get back to my apartment. Gotta record bigger on the inside. The new Who Doctor Who Watch On podcast.
I know what I'll recommend
Everyone's
whilst you think of something. For those in the UK, you can probably watch this. If not, just pirate it. I'm a big comedy fan.
You can't endorse pirating.
I like Blackadder. I like Rowan Atkinson. There was a documentary on ITV this week. It's probably will be on ITV Play for the foreseeable future about Rowan Atkinson, Richard Curtis, and that creative team and how they created the character of Mr. Bean and how Rowan Atkinson sort of started his acting career. And it was really good. Did you get a chance to watch it?
I still intend to watch it. I might watch it tonight.
Yeah, it was good fun. Definitely going to give that a watch. And Harry, what are you going to recommend? Because you can't recommend Succession again. You've done that.
Succession's really good, though.
You want to recommend it again,
Tim?
No.
I'm not going to recommend. I mean, I already have, but I'm going to recommend on the subject of Richard Curtis. You seen Yesterday? Did you ever see the Richard Curtis Danny Boyle film Yesterday?
No, I haven't, but it does look good.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good. It's Danny Boyle directed. Richard Curtis wrote it. It's about a guy who ends up in a world where the Beatles never existed, so he just writes all the Beatles songs and becomes super famous. It's very funny. My least favorite part of it is kind of the romance part of it, which is almost always my least favorite part of Richard Curtis films, which is weird because that's like the thing that's in all of his films. But you know,
Best thing about
everything
being in the Beatles was all the free sweeties. That was Ringo Starr.
there are no Beatles in this film, Tim. This is a world with no Beatles.
No, I'm just saying, if Ringo Starr was here, that's what he'd say. The best thing about being in the Beatles was all the free sweeties.
That doesn't sound like Ringo. Ringo's
Thomas
more like,
was a huffing and a puffing.
Thomas was huffing and puffing down the track as fast as his wheels could take him. Slow down, said Annie and Clarabelle. I can't, said Thomas. I'm behind schedule, and I can't let down the Fat Controller.
Why is that so good? Why can you do that? That shouldn't be something anyone could do.
What, a good Ringo Starr impression?
Can you do the other four? The other three?
Let's see. Well, John Lennon's pretty high. It's like, hello, I'm John Lennon. I'm the best artist in the Beatles.
That's not bad.
Then Paul McCartney, always like, hello, I'm Paul McCartney from the Beatles. I can't do a very good Paul McCartney.
What about George Harrison?
What does George Harrison sound like?
He goes, I've got my mind set on you. I've got my mind set.
Oh wait, no, I can do a great George Harrison. Hello, I'm George Harrison.
That was amazing.
From the Beatles. Sure do like being from Liverpool.
Oh, hang on. I think I just got that joke. Was that the... I don't know if it was intentional. It reminded me a lot of... What's the guy who made Rick and Morty?
Dan Harmon or Justin Roiland?
Justin Roiland, where he's doing that video where people send in pictures of cartoon characters and he has to do a voice for them. And he just does the same rubbish voice for every single one.
All of his voices are... all of his voices in that are... Hey, look at me! I'm Justin Roiland. Look at me, guys! Look at me! I'm the character.
I don't
honestly,
Rick and Morty anymore.
Different voices aren't Justin's forte, but he's good at improv. He's a funny guy. I don't have anything against him. It's just that.
Oh, Harry's broken up. I can't hear him. This is being. I don't know if Harry's even going to come back. His internet's cut out. Oh, there he is. Can you hear me, Harry?
Yeah, basically what I was saying is that video unfortunately exposed that Justin Roiland doesn't get hired for his range of voices, but he's still talented. He's still a very funny guy and he has funny delivery. So
that's true. So what are you recommending? Thomas the Tank Engine?
I recommended yesterday.
Oh, you did, didn't you? Sorry. That's what we were talking about.
We've talked about Balamori, Jackanory, Jack Spoke, the Wombles, Thomas the Tank Engine. Why have we talked about so many British kids shows?
What about next week where we're going to talk about, I think it's called, is it called Timmy's Toy Shelf?
Is that the Shaun the Sheep one?
No, that's the one where it's like that kid's got like a shelf and it's got loads of different toys on. There's like a monkey wearing a fez.
I don't know that one.
Mr. Okie Doke. We'll talk about that next week. Do you remember that? Here comes Okie Doke. And he lives in a tree and he comes down and he's like that. He's like a peaceful...
That rings a very vague bell.
Do you want to Google it? Google it now. Let's get Harry's live reaction.
Okay. Well, was it called Okie Doke?
Mr. Okie Doke.
Mr. Okie Doke. Is oak spelled like oak tree?
I guess so, because he lives in an oak tree. I've just dropped my lacrosse ball. Oh, God.
Is this all going to go in the podcast?
Yeah, I can't be bothered this week.
You're lucky people don't listen this far.
Mr. Okie Doke.
Unless they do. If anyone has made it this far in the podcast,
get a life.
First, well, I was going to ask why. I'm glad that we bring you, comfort, entertainment, whatever it is you listen to us for. It's good to know that we're appealing to someone.
Have you found Mr. Okie Doke yet?
Okay, I've got it up. It does look very familiar.
Yeah. It was something I had completely forgotten about until one day in York, where I suddenly went, "Oh my god, what's Mr. Okie Doke?"
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Do you remember it?
Vaguely. Yes. Oh my god. This is so weird. This is like a long suppressed memory.
I've just unlocked a memory you never thought you had, like TikTok does sometimes.
This. Also, that intro music slaps.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, that's great.
Anyway, thanks for listening,
Tim,
everybody.
I just want to do a CBeebies podcast now.
Maybe next
just like.
If I might overwrite a file again, who knows? Follow us on Twitter at Bigger on the Pod, YouTube Bigger on the Inside Podcast, acastshows.acast.com/Bigger on the Inside. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. We're on Instagram as well, probably Bigger on the Pod. Email us Bigger on the Inside Pod, and we'll usually try and read your emails out in the very last show. But you guys seem to be answering a lot of our questions on Twitter, on Instagram, when we have guests on. We just recorded a special guest interview today, which we'll reveal in a couple of weeks' time. As you know, we'll reveal it at the start of next week's episode. So come back next week to listen to the news segment where we'll announce who we've just spoken to. It's very fun and exciting. Would you agree with that, Harry?
Yeah, I didn't feel like I needed elaboration, but yes, it is exciting.
Okay, so we'll see you again later, guys. Say bye, Harry.
Bye-bye.
Podcast scans detect you are not subscribed. The Daleks order you to subscribe. Resistance is futile. Failure to subscribe will lead to extermination. Seek, locate, subscribe.